The ACU football team remains unbeaten in the region after wolfing down Western Oregon.
We'll have the highlights of that game and preview today's matchup against the Eastern New Mexico Greyhounds. The Chris Thomsen Show, barking up your tree right now.
Welcome into the Chris Thomsen Show as we get ready for game number 5 of the 2011 season against Eastern New Mexico later today. Grant Boone here with ACU Senior Broadcast Journalism Major Austin Gwynn and the head coach of the ACU football team, Chris Thomsen. Last week at Shotwell, ACU rolled to a 51-35 victory over Western Oregon. Coach, the last 3 weeks your team has scored 17, then 31, and then 51. Those numbers would suggest that your offense is getting into a rhythm. Does it feel that way?
Yeah, it does. You know, early in the season we talked about some of the new guys, especially at receiver that we had, and I think, you know, struggled a little bit early out of the gate, and training camp was a little bit slow with some of those guys, but definitely seemed to be, everybody seems to be gelling pretty well, and the offensive line's starting to gel as well. There's been a couple of personnel changes there, and so I think we're starting to hit our stride offensively, and the guys have worked hard. They've really worked hard to make everything come together.
And Coach, today you see an Eastern New Mexico team that you guys have had a lot of success against in years past. The last 4 years you've scored at least 44 points against them in each game. Do you see that streak staying alive?
You know, it's hard to tell. Every time you go out, every game is different. Every dynamic of every game is different. Injuries sometimes play in, so you really never know what you're going to get when you go into a game. Bottom line is you want to go in there and find a way to win it, whether you score 44 or whether you score 10. You want to find a way to win the game, and that'll be the goal.
Coach, those 51 points last week against Western Oregon, the most your team has scored since 53 a year ago against Eastern New Mexico. When we come back, lots of highlights from that big win over the Wolves of Western Oregon. Keep it here on the Chris Thomsen Show. Plenty of highlights from ACU's 51-35 victory over Western Oregon, and here to show them to you is Austin Gwynn.
Your ACU Wildcats taking on the Wolves from Western Oregon. Second straight home game at Shotwell Stadium. Perfect weather for some fall football. Players ready to get this thing underway, and it couldn't have started any better for the Wildcats as they recover a Western Oregon fumble on the third play from scrimmage. That sets them up with great field position for their first drive. Gale looked very good early as he hits Taylor Gabriel to put the Wildcats inside the 5. Reggie Brown takes over.
They get it off, up the middle, Reggie, into the end zone, touchdown.
Brown's first TD of the year, but the Wolves quick to respond.
Doggy is going to hand off to Haynes, running wide and untouched into the end zone until he's crossed the plane.
That ties things up at 7 apiece, but Gale back in business, finds Hogg for a quick 16, and it's Darryl time.
It's a pitch out to Darryl, 25, locker room 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Darryl Richardson.
22-yard scamper puts the Wildcats up by 7. Wolves, though, pounce back.
Caught there by the tight end. Buki, he's going to break the tackle and get into the end zone. Touchdown, Western Oregon.
14 all after that score. A couple of drives later, Gabriel returns a punt and almost breaks free. Remember that play, folks. Nice return, which sets up the Cats in Western Oregon territory. Gale decides to take care of things himself.
Gale over the middle, going to pick it and run it. Gale moves forward into the end zone. Touchdown.
21-14 Cats, and Lineberry adds a field goal to make it a 10-point game. But the fireworks were only just beginning.
Ozaki, 24-14, play action, all day to throw, goes deep down the field, wide open is McFarland, to the 30, 25-20, touchdown, Western Oregon, no flags on the field, and just like that, it's 24-20 with the extra point ending.
Wolves quickly cut the lead to 3 while burning the ACU secondary, but Darian Hogg answers with a great catch of his own.
The end zone, it is touchdown, Darian Hogg, 46 yards out.
That touchdown pushes the lead back to 10 at 38-28. But remember when I told you to keep in mind Gabriel's punt return skills? Well, here's why.
Caught by Gabriel at the 45-50. And he tries to decide what he wants to do. Tries to go outside to the 50-yard line. Gets one block down. And here's far sideline. Gabriel is going to go the distance. Taylor Gabriel 10, 5, touchdown ACU.
That's Gabriel's second career return touchdown. And how about one more highlight from the win? Gale finds Daryl Cantu Harkless for a 61-yard catch and run to the house. That seals the win for the Wildcats. Final score, Wildcats 51, Wolves 35. Here is quarterback Mitchell Gale's thoughts on the offensive explosion.
This is what was possible. If we played a clean game and we're efficient in what we were supposed to be doing and protected the ball, we knew that something like this is possible. And so, it's great to finally. I think this will help us understand that not only are we capable of doing this, but we can do this week in and week out. And so, I think it's going to be a big step for us.
51-35 the final. Coach, I can't imagine your team getting off to a much better start than it did. You kick off, you force and recover a fumble, you go down and score on your first offensive possession. What does it do for the sideline for your team when you get off to a start like that?
Well, it gives you a good boost to start the game, and we try to tell our guys, regardless of the situation, whether you start off good or bad or what transpires during the game, to stay focused, to stay even-keeled and play the next play. But there's no doubt that starting off the game like that helps you.
And on that drive, Coach, Taylor Gabriel got you guys inside the 10, but there the drive kind of seemed to stall. You ended up having to go for it on a 4th and 1, and it was successful. Take us through what went into making that decision, because it's kind of a risky call there at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, it was on the 1-yard line or even maybe a little bit closer. And, your mindset as a coach down there is just you got to have faith in your players. You got to put it on the offensive line. Felt like our offensive line has played good the last couple of weeks, and coming away with 7 points there is a big boost. And the worst case, if you don't get it, they got to go 99 yards against your defense. So it's not a huge gamble in my mind.
Reggie Brown finished that drive off. His first touchdown since 2009. Of course, he missed all of last season with that training camp injury. I hear you praising Reggie in ways that you don't speak about every player on this team. What is it specifically about Reggie that's earned your respect, and how, on a personal note, how happy were you for him that he got back into the end zone?
Well, what's earned my respect is he's an all-around back and has been since he got here in 2009. And all-around meaning he runs the ball very hard, he catches the ball well, but he takes a lot of pride in his pass protection. And I respect backs that do that aren't just about running the football. And he brings the whole package. He's a tough guy. He's not afraid to go inside and run between the tackles, and at some point, inevitably, you have to go inside. And Reggie's always been able to do that. And then coming back from a serious injury, I have a great deal of respect for how he's had to rehab and be tough. He's had to be a tough player, and he is that, and brings a lot of toughness to our team.
He's not a rah-rah guy, though, in the locker room. He's not a guy to scream and yell a lot, is he?
No, Reggie, extremely quiet guy, doesn't say a whole lot, but he speaks loudly with his body language and his actions and the way he carries himself, the way he practices. Just his day-to-day approach is something I respect.
And, Coach, despite Reggie's start for you guys with the touchdown, they came back, tied up the game. Y'all kind of would go ahead, and they would come back. They were always there biting at y'all's heels. But then you open up a 10-point lead at the beginning of the second half after a Morgan Lineberry field goal, and then what looks like a killer play. They hit you guys over the top, a 73-yard pass for a touchdown. How tough is that to open up that lead, and then the next play it's just evaporated?
It's tough because at that point with a 10-point lead, you think you're starting to separate a little bit, and we had a little bit of coverage miscommunication, and 73 yards later they hit you. And, again, you go back to the same thing opening the game. Don't get too high about that, but don't get too low about giving up the 73-yarder. Just come back and respond, and I think that's what our guys did.
Well, you did respond. In fact, on the very next possession, Mitchell goes over the top, hits Darian Hogg. Great catch by Darian, one-on-one coverage on that far sideline. We said on the show last week, in fact, in our Cover 2 segment, Austin and me, that really for Mitchell, as impressive as he's been in 2+ seasons, he's been somewhat inconsistent when it comes to hitting that home run ball. From a defensive coordinator standpoint of an opposing team, how much more potent does it make your offense when you have that big strike possibility?
Well, it's huge. I mean, the field, you have to be able to stretch the field and let the secondary know that they can't play up tight on you. And, Eastern New Mexico, for example, is a team that they will play up on you. They're not afraid to get up on you and press and try to keep everything tight to the line of scrimmage. So, you can't be afraid to take some shots and let them know that you'll do that. And once you stretch the field and do that, that gives you some underneath possibilities, because those, once you go over the top on somebody, those DBs will start playing a little bit looser.
And, Coach, one more explosive play. The punt return by Taylor Gabriel. Special teams has always been something that the Wildcats have been successful at, and that play took a close game, broke it open. He had almost broken one actually previously in the game, and he got that one, a little hesitation. What did that do for your sideline? That's one of the most exciting plays in all of football.
I think that was the biggest momentum swing in that game, following Hogg's touchdown. And, what you start to see, most teams, their defensive players play special teams. And once a defense starts to get tired a little bit, that translates into special teams because those guys are trying to tackle. And, those guys running down on that punt coverage, I think there was a little bit of fatigue from being out there on the field so much. And Taylor was able to expose that. He kind of ran it up in there and then hit it right, and they didn't react too well to it. And next thing you know, he's on the sideline.
Yeah, that's his second career punt return for a touchdown for your team. Had one last year against Tarleton State. 51-35, and now 3-0 in the region. More Chris Thomsen Show in a moment. Stay with us.
And now back on set at the Chris Thomsen Show. And with a look around the other ACU sports, here is Kristen Goodspeed and Taylor Langston with the JMC Network Sportscast.
Thanks, Austin. The ACU tennis teams have once again shined, winning 3 of 4 major titles at the ITA South Central Championships last weekend, hosted by Southwest Baptist University. Julia Monjean and Hans Hock have each claimed crowns in the singles division for the second consecutive week, while the doubles division was owned by Micah Hermsdorf and Hannah Kelly. For Hermsdorf and Monjean, however, it was just like any other practice as they faced each other in the finals, which Monjean won in 3 sets. These two will be joined by Kelly and Hawk at the ITA Small College Championship, set to take place on October 12th through the 15th in Mobile, Alabama.
Well, ACU cross country struggled in Stillwater last weekend. At the Oklahoma State Cowboy Jamboree, the men finished 23rd overall while the women placed 18th. No Wildcat on either side finished in the top 50 in the individual standings. For the women, Chloe Sissette placed 58th, followed by teammate Elise Goldsmith in 78th. Goldsmith actually transferred to ACU from OSU. Before the meet, she said she was excited to see and then run against her former teammates. Over on the men's side, Will Pike finished in 91st place and Eric Forster in 120th. The OSU Cowboys swept the team titles for men and women, and Indiana won both silvers. Today in Wichita Falls, you can look for the Wildcats at Midwestern State Invitational.
The volleyball team knocked off number 25 ranked Emporia State in a thrilling 5-set win in the Ramada Inn Lady Blues Fall Classic Tournament last weekend. The women got off to a slow start, losing in the first set 25-8, but battled back to take the second 25-19. After falling in the third, the Lady Cats picked themselves up to capture the final 2, winning 25-18 and finally 15-10. The women left the tournament, however, with a 2-2 record, losing in a down-to-the-wire match against Truman State. Senior Jenny Hutt was named to the all-tournament team, leading the Lady Cats for kills in the tournament. Today, the women will look for success at 2 o'clock against Cameron University in Lawton, Oklahoma.
As for ACU soccer, the number 4 ranked Wildcats beat Texas Women's University 4-2 last Friday on the Wildcat soccer pitch. Andrea Carpenter and Whitley Lindholm each scored twice in the game, while goalie Elliott London made 2 saves against the Pioneers. Then on Sunday, the Wildcats defeated Texas A&M Commerce 4-1. This game gave the Wildcats 5 wins, 0 losses, and 1 tie in the Lone Star Conference, and continued the team's unbeaten streak of 15 matches. The Lions were actually the last team to beat ACU on October 29, 2010. So I guess the Wildcats prepared for a different outcome this time around. The Wildcats faced Midwestern State on Wednesday and Eastern New Mexico on Friday, so look for the results on acusports.com. ACU ends the Wildcat soccer pitch Sunday when the team goes up against West Texas A&M. With thoughts on the game, here is Andrea Carpenter.
If you win all your games easy, sometimes you don't know how to come back, and I think it's good for our team. Not that we were down, obviously, but I mean, it lets us know that no matter what, if we're down a goal, if we're down 2 goals, that we know that we can get our heads together and we can win the game in the end.
And by the way, the soccer team did defeat Midwestern on Wednesday. Now moving into football, former ACU running back Wilbert Montgomery has been chosen to be inducted into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame this November. Montgomery was a member of the 1973 National Championship team under Coach Wally Billington, whom we met up with earlier this week to talk about Montgomery's achievements.
So many schools playing football across the nation. To have a D2 player is really outstanding, and a tribute to him, not only to him, but to his offensive lineman and his quarterback. And Wilbert was one that always gave credit to other people for his accomplishments. And I called him the other day and talked to him. He said, well, Coach, you were a big part of this selection for the Philadelphia Eagle Hall of Fame that he'll be inducted to in November. And he said also my teammates was the reason that I was selected too.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of the JMC Network Sportscast. I'm Taylor Langston.
And I'm Kristen Goodspeed.
See you next week.
Thanks, ladies. Back here on the Chris Thomsen Show. And Grant, that Wildcat soccer team, very good, 10-0-1 this year, undefeated. And with that win against Midwestern, 1-0, they take control of the Lone Star Conference.
Huge match, even bigger, I think, for Midwestern State. They were 2 games behind ACU going into that match on Wednesday. Had they won, they not only would have gotten within 1 game, but had they made up that game, they would have had the tiebreaker against ACU. Now, for all intents and purposes, they've put Midwestern away in terms of the regular season title. Huge win, Andrea Carpenter with her 10th goal of the season.
Absolutely. Wildcat soccer team has been a growing program here so far over the last couple of years. It looks like they've hit their stride. And let's go back and talk about that Wilbert Montgomery story. Maybe the most heralded ACU Wildcat in history, getting inducted into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. What has he done for this program?
Huge. I mean, you think about the great team in 1950 that Coach Bullington was a player on. But then for Coach B to come here and then turn the ACU program from kind of 3 yards in a cloud of dust to a team that threw it all over the lot, that scored a ton of points. In 1973, in fact, this week during his freshman year, the week of October 8th that we're in this week, Wilbert went for 6 touchdowns against Stephen F. Austin in a 57-50 win. He's still Philadelphia Eagles' all-time leading rusher. At the time, he had the NAIA record with 76 touchdowns over 4 seasons. Wilbert Montgomery has not only been a great collegiate player, he went into the College Football Hall of Fame 25 years ago, terrific NFL player with the Eagles, got to a Super Bowl as a player, lost to the Raiders, won a Super Bowl as an assistant coach for the guy he played for in Philly, Dick Vermeil, when he was an assistant with the St. Louis Rams. And now he's a great running backs coach for the Baltimore Ravens. He took them from a kind of a middle-of-the-pack rushing team a few years ago now to being one of the top rushing teams in the league.
And real quick, in 73, ACU won a championship with Wilbert. They won again in 77. How soon is it before we see another NCAA championship trophy listed here?
It's just so hard to win. We've had 2 perfect seasons in the last 3 years, and yet every year you run into these elite teams, in some cases from the MIAA like Northwest Missouri State, which is good again this year, even though they lost last week. Just getting out of this region has been the hard part for ACU, and it'll be hard again this year.
And let's hope this week is another step towards that national championship trophy, maybe for this year, against Eastern New Mexico. And we'll actually talk to Coach T about that matchup today against the Greyhounds when we come back right here on the Chris Thomsen Show. Hang tight.
Welcome back to the Chris Thomsen Show. Let's take a look at the Lone Star Conference standings now, 5 weeks into the season, and you'll see Midwestern State and West Texas A&M both 3-0. They've played one more conference game that ACU has. Coach, a couple of more blowout victories for the Mustangs and the Buffs. They've been really impressive, haven't they?
Yeah, they have so far. We really haven't actually seen them on tape yet, but we've seen them at Cowboy Stadium, and both teams look very good, and the games that they're playing, the scores that they're having, very impressive.
And Coach, another team that won last week, the team y'all are seeing today, Eastern New Mexico, a big win against Angelo State. Eastern's not a team that has many upset wins throughout the year, but that could be a big confidence builder going into this game today against you guys.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. Angelo State's been playing well this year, and to go down to San Angelo and get a win, that's big. And, you know, the quarterback has been playing great. Woods really had a big game last week against Angelo, and that provides them a lot of confidence.
Coach, let's talk about today's game specifically. 3 o'clock kickoff, Abilene time, 2 o'clock there, Mountain time in Portales. Actually, officially, they call it Blackwater Draw. They like to play that whole thing up there on that rare site there just east of Portales. So you're 3-1 overall. You're 2-0 in the conference, 3-0 in the region. They're 1-2 in the conference. Their mascot is a bus line and a dog, Greyhound, but their offense is way more Italian sports car. It is up and down the field. How hard of a team is this to prepare for during the week?
Well, it's really hard. It's like the old option days where you really can't simulate the speed or the dynamic of what they do, and so it's hard to prepare for. But it's one of those deals you have to get in the game early and just get with the rhythm of what they're doing and the tempo of what they do, and makes it hard to substitute guys in, and they want to wear you down, and eventually in the game wear your defense down and get you to a point where you can't defend all the different things they do in the passing game. And it's just one of those deals you got to go out there and get in the flow and stay with them.
And just to specify here, we see a lot of teams that will spread you out and a lot of teams that will go no huddle, but this isn't your average no huddle, is it? I mean, as soon as the ball is spotted by the umpire, they're going, aren't they?
Yeah, they're going as fast as they can go, and they'll look to the sideline sometimes and get a call, so it gives you a little bit of time, but typically as fast as they can get it spotted, they're moving.
And Coach, in a little bit of a scheduling oddity, we actually are going to Portales for the second straight year, and I don't know if anybody's happy about that. Like Grant said, the stadium isn't actually on their campus. It's in the middle of nowhere, always windy. There's flies. Even there's rumor that the grass on the field is taller than normal. How tough is it to go into a place like that and play a football game?
Well, that's not a rumor. I mean, the grass is literally, it's about, it's up ankle deep, and I don't know why they do that, but it is tough to go in there. It's a tough trip. Any road game in the Lone Star Conference is tough, but Blackwater Draw has got this mystique about it because, some really good teams have gone in there and gone down in tough games. So I don't know if that's the stadium or the atmosphere of just a tough Greyhound team. Coach Roboto and his staff do a great job.
Let me talk about Wesley Wood a little bit, their quarterback. He led Muleshoe to a state championship in the state of Texas a few years ago. He's really kind of a triple threat in a way because he's going to throw it all over the lot. He's a running threat, but then a lot of times when they're somewhere near midfield, he'll stay on the field, and you have to keep your defense on the field because they're going to look like they're going to go for it, but he'll punt. He's punted it 10 times this year. Yeah,
he does a good job with the quick kick, and you have to stay up there because you have to defend in case they go for it, and then they just try to kick it over your head. That's a pretty tough deal to defend, and really more than anything, he's just like last week against Angelo, he played great. I mean, he's throwing the ball well, but he's also a running threat, and he reminds me a little bit of Mitchell, from year 1 to year 2. He's made a big jump from what he was last year. It looks to me like he worked hard in the weight room. He's quicker and stronger than he was. He's running the ball better. Tarleton State, first touchdown, he pulls the zone read and goes 35 yards on a touchdown run, and Tarleton State's got some guys that can run. So he has added that threat. I think he's a little bit more of a threat to run than he was last year. He's still throwing the ball very well.
And Coach, with a quick offense like the Greyhounds have, your defense is going to need its rest, and you can do that by running the ball a lot more, and the Greyhound defense has allowed 300-plus rushing yards already twice this year. How important will the ground game be for you guys today?
I think it'll be critical, to be able, just like the last couple of weeks, we've been able to establish something on the ground and to run some clock, to keep the defense off the field. I think the ground game will be very important.
All right, your team has averaged better than 160 yards rushing each of the last 2 games. Don't forget now, kickoff today, 3 o'clock Abilene time. Lance Fleming and I will have the pregame show online at acusports.com and on 92.5 FM in Abilene at 2:30. For Austin Gwynn and for the coach Chris Thomsen, I'm Grant Boone. Thanks for watching The Chris Thomsen Show.